Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about the top 5 oldest languages in the world which are still in use. Chinese is the 5th known oldest language in the world. It was originated in 1250 BC on China. It is the native language for more than 1.5 billion people in the world. It is also the official language in China, Singapore, Taiwan, Hong Kong and Macau. The earliest Chinese written records are Shang Dynasty-era oracle inscriptions, which can be traced back to 1250 BC. The phonetic categories of archaic Chinese can be reconstructed from the rhymes of ancient poetry. During the Northern and Southern Dynasties period, Middle Chinese went through several sound changes and split into several varieties following prolonged geographic and political separation. Kan, a rhyme dictionary, recorded a compromise between the pronunciations of different region. Linguists classify all varieties of Chinese as part of the Sino-Tibetan language family, together with Burmese, Tibetan, and many other languages spoken in the Himalayas and the Southeast Asian Massif. The next oldest language, after Chinese, is the Greek. It was originated between 1450 and 1350 BC. The Greek is always known for its beautiful monuments and its great kings. It is a native language for more than 1.6 million people. The Greek has its first written script in late 15th century. The scripts were derived from Phoenician alphabets and Cyrillic alphabets. The Greek language is divided ancient Greek, medieval Greek, and modern Greek. Countries like the USA and Australia also have large Greek-speaking communities. The Greek language holds an important place in the history of the Western world and Christianity. The canon of ancient Greek literature includes works in the Western canon, such as the epic poems Iliad and Odyssey. Greek is also the language in which many of the foundational texts in science, especially astronomy, mathematics and logic and Western philosophy, such as the Platonic dialogues and the works of Aristotle, are composed. Greek is spoken by at least 13 million people, mainly in Greece, Albania and Cyprus, but also worldwide by the large Greek diaspora. Historically, there were traditional Greek-speaking settlements and regions in the neighboring countries of Albania, Bulgaria, and Turkey, as well as in several countries in the Black Sea area, such as Ukraine, Russia, Romania, Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan, and around the Mediterranean Sea, southern Italy, Syria, Israel, Egypt, Lebanon, Libya, and ancient coastal towns along the Levant. The next oldest language is the native language of the country we all know and wonder about, Egyptian. The Egyptian was originated in 2600 BC. It was the native language of ancient peoples of Egypt. The written sentence of this language has been dated to about 2690 BC. It is divided into Archaic Egyptian and Old Egyptian. The earlier Egyptian consists of Archaic Egyptian, Old, Middle, Late Middle and Late Egyptian, whereas the latest Egyptian consists of Neo-Middle Egyptian, Demotic and Coptic. The term Archaic Egyptian is sometimes reserved for the earliest use of hieroglyphs, from the late 4th through the early 3rd millennia BC. At the earliest stage, around 3300 BC, Late Egyptian, appearing around 1350 BC, is represented by a large body of religious and secular literature, comprising such examples as the story of Wenamun, the love poems of the Chester Beatty Papyrus, and the instruction of Ini. Demotic is the name given to the Egyptian vernacular of the late and Ptolemaic periods. It was written in the Demotic script, derived from a northern variety of hieratic writing. Coptic is the name given to the stage of the language at the time of Christianization. It survived into the medieval period, but by the 16th century was dwindling rapidly due to the persecution of Coptic Christians under the Mamluks. This language is divided into Early and Later Egyptian. The second oldest language which is still in use is Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a language of ancient India with a 3,500-year history. It is the primary liturgical language of Hinduism and the predominant language of most works of Hindu philosophy, as well as some of the principal texts of Buddhism and Jainism. Sanskrit is traceable to the 2nd millennium BC in a form known as Vedic Sanskrit, with the Rigveda as the earliest known composition. A more refined and standardized grammatical form called Classical Sanskrit emerged in the mid-1st Street millennium BC with the Astadhyayi treatise of Panini. Sanskrit is traceable to the 2nd millennium BC in a form known as Vedic Sanskrit, with the Rigveda as the earliest known composition. A more refined and standardized grammatical form called Classical Sanskrit emerged in the mid-1st Street millennium BC with the Astadhyayi treatise of Panini. Sanskrit is among the 22 official languages of India in the 8th schedule to the Constitution. In 2010, Uttarakhand became the first state in India to make Sanskrit its second official language. In 2019, Himachal Pradesh made Sanskrit its second official language, becoming the second state in India to do so. According to Etienne Lamotte, an Indologist and Buddhism scholar, Sanskrit became the dominant literary and inscriptional language because of its precision in communication. Sanskrit was adopted voluntarily as a vehicle of high culture, arts, and profound ideas. The Sanskrit language includes 5 tenses: present, future, past imperfect, past aorist, and past perfect. It outlines 3 types of voices: active, passive, and the middle. The middle is also referred to as the mediopassive, or more formally in Sanskrit as parasmapada, which means word for another, and atmanpada, which means word for oneself. Sanskrit recognizes 3 numbers: singular, dual, and plural. The dual is a fully functioning category, used beyond naturally paired objects, such as hands or eyes, extending to any collection of 2. There are 3 persons in Sanskrit: first, second, and third. Sanskrit uses the 3 into 3 grid formed by the 3 numbers and the 3 persons parameters as the paradigm and the basic building block of its verbal system. The Sanskrit language incorporates 3 genders: feminine, masculine, and neuter. All nouns have inherent gender, but with some exceptions, personal pronouns have no gender. Exceptions include demonstrative and anaphoric pronouns. The most oldest language in the world which is still in use is Tamil. Tamil is one of the longest surviving classical languages in the world. It is believed that the Tamil language was spoken even at 2500 BC, where the scripts were found only from 300 BC. A recorded Tamil literature has been documented for over 2000 years. The earliest period of Tamil literature, Sangam literature, is dated from 300 BC AD 300. The earliest epigraphic records found on rock edicts and hero stones date from around the 3rd century BC. More than 55% of the epigraphical inscriptions, about 55,000, found by the Archaeological Survey of India, are in the Tamil language. Tamil language inscriptions written in Brahmi script have been discovered in Sri Lanka and on trade goods in Thailand and Egypt. Old Tamil is the period of the Tamil language spanning the 3rd century BC to the 8th century AD. The earliest records in Old Tamil are short inscriptions from between the 3rd and 2nd century BC in caves and on pottery. These inscriptions are written in a variant of the Brahmi script called Tamil Brahmi. The earliest long text in Old Tamil is the Tolkappiyam, an early work on Tamil grammar and poetics, whose oldest layers could be as old as the 1st century BC. Many literary works in Old Tamil have also survived. These include a corpus of 2,381 poems collectively known as Sangam literature. These poems are usually dated to between the 1st and 5th centuries AD. The evolution of Old Tamil into Middle Tamil, which is generally taken to have been completed by the 8th century, was characterized by a number of phonological and grammatical changes. In phonological terms, the most important shifts were the virtual disappearance of the atam, an old phoneme, the coalescence of the alveolar and dental nasals, and the transformation of the alveolar plosive into erotic. The present tense evolved out of the verb kill, meaning to be possible or to befall. In Old Tamil, this verb was used as an aspect marker to indicate that an action was microdurative, non-sustained or non-lasting, usually in combination with a time marker, such as n. In Middle Tamil, This usage evolved into a present tense marker kinra, which combined the old aspect and time markers. The nonal remains the standard normative grammar for modern literary Tamil, which therefore continues to be based on Middle Tamil of the 13th century rather than on modern Tamil. Modern spoken Tamil also shows a number of sound changes, in particular, a tendency to lower high vowels in initial and medial positions, and the disappearance of vowels between plosives and between a plosive and rhotic.